I can't believe it. We're fucking down in the game. What are you guys doing? What the fuck are you doing? Are you sleeping out there? And you look like a fish out of water. Come on, guys. We gotta talk about the plan today. We're gonna talk about sports. Shit. Wrong video. We're gonna be talking about Huey Lewis, but not sports. Today on Picture Class, Back to the Future, the entire trilogy. That's as much as Thomas F. Wilson I'm going to do. Keep pedaling, you too! Okay, I'm done. We are doing a Back to the Future trilogy today. 1, 2, and 3. On the IMDb scores in order, we had 8.5, 7.8, and 7.4 respectively. For the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, we have 96%, 66%, why is it so low? And then 80%. And then the audience scores are 94%, 85%, and 78%, respectively. So, oddly enough, critics and audiences don't agree which one's better, 2 or 3. Back to the Future starred Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, and Thomas F. Wilson. They were in all 3 movies. This movie trilogy is basically recasting and almost ifs. Eric Stoltz was originally cast to play Marty McFly because they were unable to get Michael J. Fox because the producers of Family Ties would not let him alter his schedule at all. Eric Stoltz was working for about 3 to 4 weeks, but they said it was darker, he lacked the charm of Marty McFly, what the character they wanted. He's a phenomenal actor. He was in Mask, not The Mask, Mask, as well as Some Kind of Wonderful, which is essentially Pretty in Pink, but gender swapped. And it was made a year after Pretty in Pink by the same director and the same writer, but with a better ending, in my opinion. We also had Claudia Wells in the first one, and then she was recast in the second and third one as Jennifer Parker, who is Marty McFly's girlfriend. She plays a much bigger role in the first one, I think, well, not bigger, but more important. I feel she's kind of just there. Nothing against Elizabeth Shue, but they kind of just really wrote her out. Story-wise, it's kind of stupid. She's probably in the whole trilogy for like, what, 10 minutes? But I really did like Claudia Wells. I felt she had more of an edge to her, and she seemed kind of cool, like a really cool girlfriend for Marty, even though they're both the same character, but the way she portrayed the character. I really would have liked to see more of her, either Elizabeth Shue or Claudia Wells, but timing didn't happen, so the actress was replaced. So the end of the first movie and the beginning of the second movie, which have the same exact scene, have 2 different actors. There's also a lot of footage with Eric Stoltz, but none of it's made available out of respect for Eric Stoltz. That's what the producers said, because they did have to fire him. Crispin Glover, who was George McFly in the first one, refused to come back for the second one, originally stating money issues, but in reality, that was more, what he said anyway, is he felt morally wrong about the ending, because in the first one, Marty McFly's family is kind of boring. They don't really like each other. It's almost like they're there, but they shouldn't be. It's almost like really depressing, almost toxic. And by the end of the first one, since he goes back in time and helps his dad basically win his mom versus the way he originally met his mom, he got his confidence and it changed his entire life. And as a result, he's more successful. And for some reason, Marty wanted this Jeep in his original timeline, and now he basically has a Jeep at the end of the first movie. So they kind of fuck with the timeline all over the place, and it gets weird. So he goes back in time, has to reunite his parents since he changed time by going back, and his mom's now in love with him. And he's like, oh God. And his mom really wants to she seems like a very, old-fashioned woman, but when he meets her, she is just a horny teenager. So he has to avoid her and help his dad get with his mom. So we go to the second one where he now has to go to the future to change the future. The plot makes very little sense, but it's fun because you see 2015 and Marty wants to basically go back and make some money. So he buys a sports almanac from 1950 to 2000 with all the results, which is a tiny little book, which is not very realistic. Robert Zemeckis directed all 3. I forgot to mention that. Yay, he also helped write along with Bob Gale. Just putting that out there. So we go further in, and now old Biff overhears them in 2015, and then he goes back. He steals a time machine while they're going to help You just watch the movie. And then when they go back in time to 1985, everything's different, and there's a casino. Everything is kind of scummy. It's almost like a completely different town. It's overrun by bikers, and there's a giant casino hotel in the middle of it. Who Biff is now this orange-haired multi-millionaire who's based off somebody in actuality.
Donald Trump.
So then they had to find out when Biff gave it to Biff in the past, because he basically bet on every single sporting thing, and he made the money. Right, nice. So they have to go back to the exact day. The exact day that they went was 1955, the story of the first one. So he has to go back now and make sure everything that happened that he had just done, while trying to get the book back from Biff. So Biff is the antagonist of the first two, no matter what age he is at. If it's 1955, 1985, 2015. I'd like to think if they did a show now, Biff would be like misunderstood. They need like a Cobra Kai type show for Biff. I was not a bad guy. Since there are really no more really bad villains, everyone's just misunderstood or just pissed off about something. There's a little more depth to villains now, I would say. But that's just an idea. If someone wants to make a Biff Cobra Kai show, you let me know. We'll write it together. qualityattempted@gmail.com. Come on, let's make something. So then by the end of the second one, he has to make sure he goes back in time to avoid, since two Martys are now in the past where he shouldn't be, yada yada yada. While they're about to go back to 1985. They finish their mission. Doc gets hit by a lightning bolt and goes back to 1885 because plot. So at the end of the second one, he sends him back to the future. The scene from the first one, and then the second Marty comes out, and then he has to go back to the past. The third one is a Western, and they have to deal with Biff's great-grandfather, Buford Tannen, and of course, the time machine lost the gas, and then there's a love story, lots of different shit. It is very complex, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. So what I love about these movies is they're a lot of fun. I've seen the second one a lot as a kid. It is it's a very feel-good movie. This is very pop culture. This is Star Wars. It's part of the Americana film, and it's also back when trilogies were a little more sacred. A little more, at least blockbuster ones. So there's Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Back to the Future. Anytime you said 10 trilogy, like a top 10 list of trilogies, those are on everyone's. Now there's so many fucking trilogies, but there are no more trilogies because now they're making 4s, 5s, and 6. Back to the Future is one of the few trilogies that has stayed a trilogy. And when I was in screenwriting class years ago, someone said they're thinking about remaking Back to the Future with Justin Bieber. This was 2011, as Marty McFly. My screenwriter's professor said, this country used to mean something. That's all I'll have to say. I thought the comment was quite hilarious. Clearly it never happened, and the producers will not let it be remade as long as I think they have the rights to it. They had 2 seasons of an animated series, which was okay. It takes place after the third one, and you're like, okay, it's back when every big movie had an animated series. Was it always good? No. But I'm going to put the bat down. We're going to put the bat down. All right? We're going to put the bat down. It had a very interesting rendition of Back in Time by Huey Lewis. Huey Lewis did The Power of Love and Back in Time, so he's very connected with the movies, hence the sports reference before. Yeah. I'm clever. But one of the great things about these movies, especially the third one, is Robert Zemeckis is a huge film buff. It has Pat Buttram. He has this very distinct voice. He's been in animated movies and John Ford movies. So it's a very Western thing to have him in the Western movie. He was in, I can't do his voice very well, but he was in Robin Hood as the Sheriff of Nottingham. He was in The Fox and the Hound. He was in Rugrats, Goofy movie. He was in all these things. Just look him up and I can't do it. It says his voice was stuck in puberty. I can't do it. It's terrible. But the trilogy has similar situations in all 3, such as Marty waking up to his mom in all 3 movies in different time periods. So that's a fun trope. This is heavy. Great Scott. They have their big phrases. And this is a huge influence, if not the major influence, on Rick and Morty. So everyone, check out Back to the Future to see what it was originally based on. I've seen the trilogy a few times. The first time I saw it was in '03 as 1. I had seen 2 so many times as a kid. 2 was a movie I grew up with. I can quote it every day. But 2 is very convoluted and complicated, but that's what I think the charm is. 3 is a Western, which can turn some people off because they're so used to the futuristic version of 2 or the 1950 version of 1. But they all cohese in this nice time travel thing. You see the same actors play the same characters, so that's kind of cool, and you get to think, you know, because parents always look identical to their kids, whether or not. That's another famous film trope. Ooh, which we all love and we just accept because they're like, are we really gonna cast someone else? So it's kind of fun to see the same characters act in 3 different time periods in 3 different situations. It also, what's funny is the movies, like throughout the movies, Christopher Lloyd, Doc Brown's like, well, I'm not doing the time machine, I'm doing it to research, and then he wants to keep destroying the time machine. He says it a few times and it actually does eventually get destroyed. And then at the end of the 3rd one, he comes with a train time machine. He has kids. Him and Mary Steenburgen get together. I don't know if I said it before. She was also in Time After Time from 1979, which is Jack the Ripper versus H.G. Wells. I am not kidding. Jack the Ripper goes to H.G. Wells' party, steals his time machine, and goes to the future. And then H.G. Wells goes to the future. He falls in love with Mary Steenburgen and then goes back in time with her. This one, Mary Steenburgen, goes forward in time with Doc Brown. So she plays a very similar character. It's kind of fun. But 1979, Time After Time. It's a very interesting one. Malcolm McDowell, David Warner. That's it. That's it for the plug. I just don't think anyone knows what it's called because it wouldn't be called Jack the Ripper versus H.G. Wells. It's called Time After Time. You know, could you imagine what that would be today? That would be like Godzilla versus Kong. Jack the Ripper, H.G. You know, but marketing was a little more subtle back then. Yeah. Anyway, so this is a trilogy which you can watch without really needing to see any more. The animated series is not required, and the 2015 short is not required. The ride, which is a bonus feature on the DVD and Blu-ray, which was a big staple at Universal Studios. When I was a kid, Universal Studios was all about the movie rides. I haven't been there in so long, but they had Back to the Future, E.T., Jaws, King Kong. So it was kind of that. You rode the movies, at least the one in Florida. And I always liked the ride because I love the DeLorean. I grew up loving that car. And I could have bought it sometime when I was in high school when it was worth nothing. And then this whole nostalgia crap came in. Now it's like 30, 40. And I'm like, no, not at all. But it has a very big special place in my heart. Especially the second one, which always feels like I'm going back to my childhood when I watch it. Going back. It's a wonderful movie, wonderful movies, and the first one I think is the best of the 3. It's the movie that has the most plot, it has the most heart, and it's like a little movie. Since it was 19 million, budget-wise and the stunts and everything, it was smaller in comparison, but it was a really good idea, and then you kind of see it become more Hollywood, because that's how it works. If you make a movie with no money, suddenly the second one has to cost more, as if sequels putting more money into it will guarantee more money. That's a 22 Jump Street joke. One of my favorite sequels because it just tells you all about sequel humor. So, I've been the Doctor, Mr. Julian. This has been Quality Attempted. If you have any recommendations, if you'd like to see me talk more blah 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 about other movies, please, qualityattempted@gmail.com. Give us a follow on Instagram. If you're into podcasts about other things and some of my other crappy work, please give us a follow on Amazon, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. We do stuff very frequently, and by we, I mean me. But thank you so much for tuning in this week. I'm not sure where we're going to go next week, so fill in my mailbox with suggestions, and let's see where we go from here. God, that was